Mark, did you see anything on North Korea with Trump?
You know, I get that question a lot, and unfortunately, I don't have an answer to that one. God has not shown me anything on North Korea. And I hate to speculate anything on North Korea.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I think North Korea is scared as crap about Donald Trump. I'm sure they'd rather have Obama in there giving them billions of dollars to increase their nuclear capability. All right. Here's a question from Miss Freedom out of the live chat. Says, anything about advanced tech or medical cures being released by Trump? And, here's something. Speaking about releasing, he released the JFK files. Hey, I'm waiting for him to release whether or not we went to the moon, but that's another subject, But, maybe even something, what's going on down there at Area 51. You think Trump will go that deep and start releasing, the secret hidden information of our government?
I honestly do. I believe that you're fixing to see cures, for medical conditions, begin to come forth, because, you got Big Pharma out there wants everybody sick, period. And so I think what you're going to see happen here now, again, I don't know the timing of this. This could be in his second term that a lot of this stuff starts happening, because right now the corruption is so deep, that's taking priority over everything. We got to get these people out of the way first, and that's going to pave the way for all this stuff to come through. But you're going to see cures. We've had cures for this stuff, Daniel, for years, for decades, for cancer. We've got cures out there, I believe, for Alzheimer's, all kinds of diseases out there. Their cures are there, but they want the money coming in for research. Big Pharma doesn't want you being well; they want you sick. That's how they make their money. So, again, yes, I do believe that is going to be dealt with. You're going to see this stuff begin to be released. Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right, and here's a question. This is a kind of a routine question. It says, as your tenure as a firefighter, how many fires were you involved with?
Oh, man, I don't know the answer to. A bunch. I was in the ghettos in Orlando, and we turned 12,000 calls out of that one fire station alone a year. We had cutting, shooting, stabbings. You name it, we ran it. It wasn't just fires that we ran.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had tons. I don't know. I couldn't even begin to answer that question.
Okay. All right. Here's another question. Did God reveal to you, this is from Peter in Australia, did God reveal to you that Trump would serve 8 years and Hillary be put in jail?
Yes. Well, 4 years, I totally believe, I knew he was coming for the 4 years, and there was a time period, and let me back up a little bit. There was a time period because I wrote the Trump prophecy back in 2011. Once he announced, there was a time frame where I was sensing he was going to be a one-term president, because he wanted to get America back on track, and then he would want to leave because of his business, basically. You know what I mean? Because of his empire. And then somewhere when he was running, it transitioned to where, no, this is no longer going to be the case. He's seeing just how bad this is now. He's getting an upfront look, some inside intel when he was running, I believe, and he's going to be in there for 8 years. So yes, God did say, he didn't specifically come down in a booming voice and tell me this, but I can tell you what I sense. He's going to be in there for 8 years, because the economy is going to be so booming. Everything's going to be so big and so good for the United States at that point. Not saying we're not going to have issues along the way, because we will, but at that point, what we dealt with for 8 years will be totally gone. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So he will be in there, and he's going to sail right into a second term.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about Hillary Clinton wanting to have a voodoo doll of Donald Trump so she could poke it? Is she involved in black magic?
From what I understand, she's like this bigwig in the Illuminati, and she's an active witch. What she is, I don't know. Yeah. I will say this: right before the election, it was about 60 days before the election, my co-author, Mary Colbert, the Lord told her to hold a national prayer call. And so she had this national prayer call. It was free. And every day we had up to 10,000 people on the line at one time. And each day she had a different person leading the prayer for 15 minutes. That's all it was, 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And so she had me on 9/11. Right before, the elections, and because she knew I was a firefighter, she wanted me to stand in for the first responders. Well, the Lord was dealing with me about, target-focused prayer, target-focused repentance, because the people weren't repenting, and, it was generalized repentance, like, Lord, forgive me for my sins. That's not going to cut it. You got to get focused. In other words, think of your prayers and your repentance as a laser-guided bomb. You laser the target, and you hit the target. So you want to get very specific with your prayers and with your repentance. So I sat before the Lord because some of these people were coming on the line, and these were some big name people. I mean, literally, because Mary knows all these big name people, and they were just generalizing. And I'm like, the Lord was telling me this is not cutting it. He says, I want you to sit down and I want you to get target focused. So I sat down for 2 days and wrote out a prayer for 15-minute prayer, and that was on 9/11. One of the things that I prayed, because you got to remember the power of agreement. We had 10,000 people on the phone agreeing, and so one of the things I said, Lord, time is up for those who are corrupt. I started quoting that prophecy that I had written that the Lord gave me, and I said, those who are corrupt, remove them from office and replace them with people from your army. And so I went into all this. I repented first, and then I went into that. I hung up the phone at 9:17, Daniel, and somebody can fact check me on this. It was about 20 minutes later that Hillary Clinton collapsed for the entire world to see, and she lost her shoe. Now, it was prophetic on a couple of things. One, it was prophetic for the church. This is what happens when we come together in agreement, one mind, one heart, and one accord. That's the power behind it right there. We can take on any enemy, any foe, and bring them down, period. It was prophetic in another sense, is that everything behind the Clinton empire is going to collapse. And she lost her shoe, which means they will lose their peace. What have they done? They've been protesting in the streets. That she's lost her peace. So you're seeing that taking place right now. So am I saying that I'm responsible for collapsing? No, it was a team effort. That's what the army of God can do when we come together in one heart, one mind, and one accord. We're not always going to agree on everything. Let's just be honest. We're not. And we don't have to, but we can still come together for a common cause. And what is that cause? That is to take ground for the kingdom of God and hold it at all costs.
This video belongs to lordsprophecy.com. Please visit our website for more update. lordsprophecy.com. Spelling LORDS prophecy.com. Thanks for your support.
Sack of potatoes. But what was interesting, though, and this is probably the first time anywhere that somebody of that high of a stature, I guess you could say, instead of being rushed to the hospital to the best doctors anywhere, they rush her to her daughter's apartment where they had a medical team up there. And then she comes out and she looks 20 pounds 20 pounds less, and all the wrinkles gone from her face. Some people say that she was cloned there, but maybe it's more perhaps that they took her up there and did some sort of incantation to revive her. What do you think?
That part I don't know. I just know she hit the ground, and it was 20 minutes after that prayer.
But didn't you find it odd that she wasn't taken to a hospital?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that tells me they already know what condition she has and are used to dealing with it.
And
you know what I mean?
So I'm wondering then. You say that the power of prayer of the voices of the believers caused that manifestation in her life of sickness. Yes. Do you think that this is where her coughing spells come from? Because isn't there something in the Bible where somebody's voice, they lost their voice, they were speaking, they lost it, and God didn't want to hear from them?
Yeah, I mean, again, to me, it's prophetic again with her coughing like that. It's because she's choking on her own words.
Wow. All right, man. This is. Well, I'll tell you what. This is more positive. I'm almost seeing her in jail now. I mean, first of all, it was a joke. Yeah. Now, hey, maybe it could be.
Yeah. Listen. Here's the other thing. Let's talk about the Supreme Court for a minute. Let's hit a hot button here, man.
Sure. Why not?
As if we haven't hit the hot buttons before here. But so we got. The Lord started dealing with me about the Supreme Court. And I originally prophesied that there would be 3 Supreme Court justices that would be replaced. Okay. And the Lord started dealing with me on it. And he said, no, Mark. He said, now there's going to be 5. And I said, okay, Lord. And he said, one's going to die, one's going to retire, and 3 will be caught in a scandal and have to be removed.
Whoa.
And I said, okay, Lord. So I prophesied all this. Now, when it was about a month or 2 later, Scalia died. And I went to Mary. I said, did you hear what just happened? She's like, yeah. I said, man, I wasn't expecting him to be the one. And she said, well, Mark, the Lord told you it wasn't going to be who you expected. And I said, well, yeah. I said, and everybody was panicking. Remember, when he died, the entire country was in full-blown panic mode because they thought Obama was going to get his pick of a Supreme Court justice before he got out of office. At Scalia's funeral, the Lord gave 2 signs. And when I saw those 2 signs the Lord gave me at his funeral, he started downloading the word to me. So I wrote that word, and as it was "Do Not Fear America." I wrote it February 24th, 2016, and what the Lord was saying was, if you watch it on C-SPAN or one of those things on YouTube, when they were taking his casket at the bottom of the steps up to the courthouse, you hear a siren in the background. And as they get to the middle of the steps or the halfway point, it starts to dissipate. When they get to the top of the steps, you hear this booming train sound or train horn in the background.
Uh-huh. Wow!
And because there was a reverence there, it was very quiet. Everybody was quiet. It was reverence at the time. So I heard that, and I was ecstatic. I knew the Lord was talking to me right there. And what the Lord was saying was, "Do not fret. Help is on the way." The siren. For the next judge that will be appointed has been reserved for my anointed, the trump train, the train horn.
Whoa.
So sure enough, the day he got inaugurated, that part of the prophecy came to pass. Now, the Lord himself is going to reform the court. When you get 5 Supreme Court justices back in there, the Lord himself is going to take on that case called Roe versus Wade, and he is going to overturn it, period.
Whoa. Man, that is a hot button. Did you just say that?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. Now, I woke up the other morning. I'm just going to throw this out there because it shocked me when I heard it. And sometimes, the Lord will speak to me in the twilight season when I'm falling asleep or when I'm waking up. And I woke up the other morning, and it never even dawned on me about all this. I didn't even put 2 and 2 together. And all of a sudden, it's like the Lord was saying, what if these 3 Supreme Court justices that are going to be removed are part of these indictments?
Wow.
And I went, whoa. Now, I don't know that to be the fact. I'm not prophesying that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying it was like, Lord, it was almost like the Lord was posing a question to me, which is kind of different, to be honest with you. And I kind of I'm like, it shocked me. And I'm like, wow. I mean, can you imagine, just put the 9,000 indictments aside for a minute. Can you imagine at any time that if they arrested 3 Supreme Court justices, what would happen? I mean, there would be chaos.
Well, yeah.
Literally. I mean, and so, I mean, again, I'm not saying they're part of the indictments, but they will be, there's some type of a scandal that these guys are going to be caught up in, and I believe that they're going to have to be removed.
Well, see, that's interesting, too, because 35 states tried to put in their constitution that marriage was defined as one man and one woman, but a bunch of lousy 7 justices, they reversed that and reversed the will of the people on there. And who knows, maybe we'll get the will of the people coming back. Here's a question from Phil in North Carolina. Now, this sounds like an internet rumor, but I'm going to go ahead and read it anyway. He says, Mark, is there any truth to McCain and Clinton wearing ankle braces because they're actually under house arrest?
I have heard that too. I cannot confirm that. I do not know.
Okay. And the other part of this, and I have seen this on the internet, and it doesn't look like Photoshop to me, but there must be 5 pictures of one of Hillary and McCain. There's several people that are all wearing a boot. Have you seen that?
I have seen it. With the technology we have, it's hard to vet anything right now, man, with the technology we have, Photoshop, whatever.
Right.
And I have seen that, yes. And it is pretty intriguing. It would not surprise me.
Mm-hmm. Well, now there have been some false prophecies out there. I remember, particularly in say the alternative right, maybe even in the Christian world, and Bill Clinton was going to be the last president, and then Bush is going to be the last president, and then Obama's going to be the last president,
and now we got the last Trump.
Yeah. So and the last Trump. Hey.
Yeah. I got news for you. This is not going to be the last Trump, folks. I believe you may see another Trump in the White House.
And let me ask you something. Do you think you mentioned in the first hour, Mark Taylor, about if you want to be cheered up, get on Trump's Twitter feed, and I am on that, and I have laughed hysterically. I don't know how many times reading that, because it's like, he's what he does. I don't know if you heard it, but this is my own kind of made up thing. I haven't really heard anybody say it, but he dangles a shiny object out there, and everybody goes running after it, think they get him, and he hooks them.
They take the bait every time.
Yeah, he does. It's like a little shiny. He just dangles it in front of him. It's like we finally got him. We finally got him when he said McCain wasn't a war hero. We finally got him when he said McCain's got blood coming out. We finally got him here. And every time they don't finally got him, and he wins the argument. But let me ask you something. That being the case, do you think he has the sense of divine protection, and therefore he could care less about what he tweets.
Absolutely. Mary, my co-author, she sits on his spiritual advisory board. And, one of the things is that they're doing Bible studies in the White House now. And, I mean, he came out for the spiritual advisory board, and he told them, he said, I want to go down in history, or I want my legacy to be known as the most praying president in American history. Now, when is the last time we've ever heard? I don't think we've ever heard that before, have we?
No,
not that I know of. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, we have a true leader in the White House right now, Donald Trump, who is a man of God. And people say, and I get this all the time thrown at me, oh my gosh, he calls people names. How can you say he's a Christian? This, that, and the other. And they want to blame it on the fact he's a baby Christian. Mm-hmm. Folks, read your Bibles. I mean, Jesus himself called people names. He called them hypocrites. He called them a brood of vipers. Mm-hmm. He called them all kinds of stuff. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, again, just because the man's calling somebody names doesn't mean he's not a Christian. So, well,
I like the one that says when people are being called Grecian slow bellies. I really like that because that, to me, slow bellies reminds me of a Democrat anyway.
Yeah.
But So this thing about the sensitivities of Christians. I'll tell you what. I've let loose of a few choice words here or there, but you know what? It's time for Christians to stop cowering in a corner and trying to be all pious and righteous and get out there and start fighting. And sometimes when they say that there's a study released that says if you cuss during an activity, you do it better. So, I'm not saying that cussing is the way to go. I'm certainly there's things about language that need to be put in check, but we, as a group, and let me ask you, did I hear Trump once say that he said like the Democrats or the Muslims have a group, the gay lobby has a group, everybody has a group, or a lobby except for Christians. And did he say something like that?
Yeah,
and why did he say to pose the question? Why don't they get together?
Right, and see, that was the thing with the 501c3. He was trying to do away that they call the Johnson Amendment, and it's because the church.
Hello, Mark.
Why aren't you guys getting together? Why aren't you using your voice? The day you guys ever get your act together, this stuff will change. And he's right. Because, again, the church is the spiritual moral compass of any nation. We're the reason that the country's in the condition that it's in because they haven't done their job, period. Mm-hmm. So, excuse me. So he says, then all of a sudden he stopped and he went, I know what's going on. It's that 501c3. So I had prophesied that literally 2 months before he said that. Mm-hmm. I don't know whether he read my prophecy, he found it on my website. I have no clue. I can't confirm. I have no clue. But literally, it was like 60 days after I prophesied that and wrote it down and I had it on my website. Mm-hmm. Boom. He says, I know what the problem is. It's that 501c3. He says, you guys are afraid to speak because of that 501c3.
Well, we've had several proclaimed Christians in the White House. Jimmy Carter comes to mind. Yep. But Jimmy Carter and even George Bush, they show him, going to church, whatever. But these guys never ever tried to get the Johnson Amendment reversed, right, where you can't talk about politics in a church. They never tried to get that changed. And I saw a video the other day where Bill Clinton, George Bush, and Obama all said they were going to move Jerusalem move the embassy to Jerusalem, but only Trump's going to do it. And these previous ones all said they were Christians and they didn't do what they said they were going to do.
Right. Let me tell you something. You cannot, and I'm gonna blow some skirts up here again. I don't care. You cannot call yourself a Christian and stand for the New World Order. You cannot call yourself a Christian and forward the kingdom of darkness's agenda. God he is separating the wheat from the chaff right now. He is saying you're either with me or you're against me. Period. There's no in between. There's no gray area here. You can't ride the fence. So you cannot be a part of that and call yourself a Christian. This is where people have a hard time sometimes saying, okay, can a Democrat be a Christian? Because that's a hot button right there, man. Look out. Mm-hmm. Because, you got to ask yourself this. What does the Democratic Party stand for? Mm-hmm. They're pro-choice. Mm-hmm. So, they're for the murdering of unborn kids. So, again, You are the one that has to determine that. But you cannot further the kingdom of darkness's agenda and call yourself a Christian.
Well, now that kind of goes a little bit back to the Alabama election there, and I don't see there are conspiracy theories coming up. There always is, but I'm sure that the religious folks down there said, I cannot in good conscience vote for somebody that, I guess they've already assumed he's guilty for some reason or other. The guilt is already assumed. It used to be that guilty. Innocent until proven guilty, but unless you're sort of a Republican, you're automatically guilty. But they can say that that he may have done something that somebody accused him of, or they can vote for somebody who actually will vote to kill babies. So I don't know which one. Where's the equivocation there? That really had to be balanced, and I don't think it was balanced in the right direction.
No, it wasn't. And the other thing, too, is we got to remember, and that brings me back to what we talked about at the beginning of the show. I wanted to bring up about this paper ballot thing. And, what the Lord was showing me is that a lot of these people who are in office right now, these blue states and these blue zones that we have on the electoral college map, most of these places are not, we don't have as many blue states and blue zones as we think we do. And what the Lord was showing me is that these people are not even supposed to be in office. The reason people like McCain are in office is because the office was stolen. Obama never was voted into office on the second term.
Wow.
The office was stolen, period. If they ever went back and did an investigation, they'd find out that office was stolen. So a lot of these people are not even supposed to be where they're at right now. Most of these congressmen, the senators in the House, the Senate and the House, it doesn't matter if it's state, local, or federal levels, these judges, some of these people are not supposed to be there. So we don't have as many blue states and blue zones as we think we do because they are manipulating the electoral process. And we have got to go back to paper ballots. Let me use this example real quick because I know we're running short on time here, I guess. But Larry Nichols, I've been in contact with Larry Nichols a couple times on the phone. He used to be a Clinton insider. Now he's a Christian, been Christian for years, and he's going after the Clintons trying to take them down. He found out through the grapevine or through the inside intel that 4 states had been basically swung for Hillary. They stole the states. This is before the election. He found out they already had them rigged for Hillary. Wow. So she did not even go to those states, from what I can remember. So all of a sudden, he takes his spiritual advisory team and they go on a blitz campaign, telling them don't vote by computer, vote by paper ballot. When they did that, those 4 states got swung for Trump. Now, what 4 states were those? The 4 states that Jill Stein called for a recount on. Remember when she called for the recount?
Yep.
Nobody can figure out why in the world is this lady calling for a recount for some of these states like Wisconsin or Michigan or whatever it was. Some of these states, they weren't really big electoral college votes, but those numbers started adding up. So they couldn't figure it out. That's why. It's because they knew they had those locked up for Hillary Clinton, and they could not figure out how they lost. And it was because of Larry Nichols and his team went in there and said, vote by paper ballot, not by machine. You got to remember, George Soros owns most of the voting software for these machines. If we don't get a hold of this before midterms, we could be in some trouble. We've got to start praying about the electoral, the election fraud, voter fraud, and we got to go back to paper ballots is what we got to do in order to beat this.